It's Tuesday evening. Justin Parker was bone-tired as he navigated the familiar streets of his childhood neighborhood. The day had been long and unforgiving, filled with back-to-back meetings and the relentless grind of office work. As he drove, the familiar sights of his old neighborhood brought a strange comfort. On a whim, he decided to stop by his parents' house. He hadn't been there in a while, and the thought of grabbing his old fishing gear from the garage and maybe spending the weekend on the water seemed like a perfect way to unwind. Justin turned into the driveway of the house he had grown up in, the same driveway he had parked his bike in as a kid. The two-story home looked as it always had, unchanged by time. He secretly stepped out of his car to surprise her parents, stretching his aching muscles, and walked towards the garage. His mind was already drifting to the lake, the quiet stillness, and the feel of a fishing rod in his hands. But as he walked past the kitchen window, something stopped him cold. There, in the kitchen, was Gloria, his wife. She told she is going to a girls' night tonight. Justin froze, his hand still on the garage door handle. Gloria was standing by the counter, but something about her looked off. She was dressed in tight jeans, a low-cut blouse, and a pair of high heels, clothes she usually reserved for nights out, not casual visits to his parents' house. Standing beside her, way too close for comfort, was Carlos, an old family friend. Justin's heart pounded in his chest as he crouched down, peeking just above the windowsill. Gloria was laughing, her hand resting lightly on Carlos' arm. The sight made Justin's stomach churn. He strained to hear what they were saying, his pulse quickening. "I still can't believe we're doing this," Gloria said, her voice low but laced with excitement. Carlos grinned, leaning in closer. "It's been a long time coming, don't you think?" Justin felt his breath catch in his throat. What was this? How long had this been going on? Just then, a voice came from the direction of the living room. It was his mother. "So," she said, her tone light and teasing, "can you handle Carlos's Big Johnson? Is he better in bed than my son?" Justin's blood ran cold. His mother knew about this? His mother, who had always been his confidant, was in on the betrayal? He could hardly believe what he was hearing. The ground seemed to shift beneath him as he tried to make sense of it all. Gloria laughed, a sound that now felt like a knife twisting in Justin's gut. "You're bad. But yes, it's awesome, exciting, and I'm craving more and more." Justin's mind spun, the betrayal cutting deeper than he could have imagined. Not only had his wife been cheating on him with Carlos, but his own mother was complicit in it. The realization hit him like a freight train, knocking the wind out of him. How could this have happened right under his nose? Before he could fully process the shock, Gloria and Carlos began moving towards the back door, clearly planning to leave together. Justin ducked down further, his heart pounding in his ears. He watched as they sneaked out, laughing softly and exchanging furtive glances, oblivious to the fact that they had been seen. Justin stayed hidden, waiting until their voices faded into the distance. When he finally stood up, he was shaking with a mixture of rage and disbelief. He felt a cold, hard resolve settling over him, like a layer of frost creeping over his heart. The anger was there, white-hot and seething, but so was something else, something colder and more calculating. He wouldn't confront them now. That would be too easy, too quick. No, this betrayal deserved something far more severe, something that would leave a lasting scar on all of them. Justin stepped away from the window, his mind already racing with possibilities. He would make them pay, but he would do it on his terms. He would bide his time, plan every detail, and when he was ready, he would strike with the kind of precision that would leave them shattered. As he walked back to his car, Justin felt a strange calm settle over him. The pain was still there, but it was now joined by a cold determination. He had been wronged in the worst possible way, and there was no going back from this. Justin started the engine and drove away from the house, the gears in his mind already turning. There was no room for doubt or hesitation. He would get his revenge, and when he was done, they would all regret ever crossing him. In the next morning, Justin woke up with a start, his heart still pounding from the events of the previous night. The house was quiet, the early morning light just beginning to filter through the curtains. He lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside him. Anger, betrayal, disbelief. It all threatened to overwhelm him. But he knew he had to keep it together, at least for now. He heard the sound of water running in the bathroom. Gloria was in the shower, humming softly, as if nothing had happened. The sound grated on his nerves, a painful reminder of her betrayal. Justin pushed himself out of bed and stood in the bedroom doorway, watching her silhouette through the frosted glass of the shower door. "Good morning, babe," Gloria called out cheerfully as she stepped out of the bathroom, a towel wrapped around her body. Her hair was wet, dripping onto the floor as she grabbed a brush from the counter. "You're up early." Justin forced a smile, trying to keep his voice steady. "Yeah, just couldn't sleep. Thought I might go fishing today. Clear my head." "That sounds nice," she said, smiling at him through the mirror as she brushed her hair. "Maybe we can have a barbecue later, just the two of us?" Justin nodded, swallowing the bile rising in his throat. "Sure, that sounds good." He watched her as she moved around the room, getting dressed, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside him. The sight of her, so casual and carefree, made his skin crawl. How many times had she lied to him? How many times had she kissed him goodbye, knowing she was running into Carlos's arms? "Anything special you want for dinner?" Gloria asked, pulling on a pair of jeans and a light sweater. She smiled at him, the same smile that used to make his heart skip a beat. Justin shook his head, trying to keep the bitterness out of his voice. "Whatever you want. I'm easy." She kissed him on the cheek, her lips soft and warm against his skin. It took every ounce of willpower not to pull away. "I'll see you tonight, then." He nodded, forcing himself to return the gesture. "Yeah, see you tonight." Justin watched her leave, listening to the sound of her footsteps fading down the hallway and the soft click of the front door closing behind her. The silence that followed was deafening. He stood there for a long moment, staring at the spot where she had just been, his mind racing. When he was sure she was gone, Justin walked to the kitchen and sat down at the table, his hands trembling slightly as he reached for his phone. He couldn't let this go. The betrayal cut too deep, and the thought of his mother's involvement twisted the knife even further. This wasn't just about Gloria and Carlos. It was about the complete shattering of his trust, the utter destruction of everything he had believed in. Justin scrolled through his contacts, his mind working furiously. He needed a plan, something that would hit them all where it hurt the most. He couldn't just confront them. That would be too simple, too quick. They needed to feel the pain, the betrayal, just as he had. He dialed a number and waited, his heart pounding in his chest. The phone rang twice before a familiar voice answered. "Hey, Justin. What's up?" It was Jasper, his old college friend who now worked as a private investigator. They hadn't spoken in a while, but Justin knew he could trust him. "Jasper," Justin said, his voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil inside him. "I need a favor." There was a pause on the other end. "Sure, man. What's going on?" Justin took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. "I need you to look into something for me. It's personal." Jasper didn't press for details, sensing the seriousness in Justin's tone. "I'm on it. Just tell me what you need." Justin explained the situation, keeping it as brief as possible. He didn't go into details about the betrayal, but he made it clear that he needed information on Gloria and Carlos, where they went, who they met, every detail he could uncover. "I'll get started right away," Jasper said, his voice firm. "I'll keep you updated." "Thanks, Jasper. I owe you one." "Don't worry about it. Take care of yourself, Justin." Justin ended the call and sat there, staring at the phone in his hand. The wheels were already in motion, and there was no turning back now. He had made his decision, and he was committed to seeing it through, no matter the cost. As he sat there, the house eerily quiet around him, Justin felt a strange sense of calm settle over him. The initial shock and pain were still there, but they were now tempered by a cold determination. He had been wronged, and he would make sure they all paid for it. He stood up, feeling more in control than he had since the previous night. There was a lot to do, and he couldn't afford to waste any more time. He would play the part, act like nothing was wrong, and when the time was right, he would strike. Justin walked to the garage, his mind already working on the next steps. He would go fishing today, just as he had told Gloria. He needed time to think, to plan his next move. But when he returned, he would be ready. The storm was coming, and they wouldn't see it until it was too late. The next day, Justin sat in his dimly lit living room, staring at the array of equipment spread out on the coffee table. Wires, small cameras, and his laptop were meticulously arranged. For the past 2 days, he had hardly slept, consumed by the need to execute his plan with precision. Every detail had to be perfect. He wasn't just seeking revenge, he was orchestrating a downfall. The first call he made was to an old college friend, Gary, who now ran a private investigation firm. Gary didn't ask many questions. He just agreed to help. Within hours, Gary had tracked down Gloria's routine and gathered information on Carlos's movements. Justin's suspicions were confirmed. This wasn't just a fling. It was a full-blown affair that had been going on for months. Next, Justin contacted Kevin, a tech-savvy friend who owed him a favor. Kevin wasn't just good with computers, he was a hacker. Justin explained what he needed: access to Gloria's phone. Kevin didn't hesitate. By the end of the first day, Justin had a complete clone of Gloria's phone, giving him access to all her messages, calls, and social media accounts. As Justin scrolled through the data, he felt a mix of anger and heartbreak. The evidence was damning. Gloria and Carlos had been careful, but not careful enough. There were messages, photos, and plans for future meetings, all laid out in front of him. Justin knew he couldn't do this alone. He reached out to a couple of actors from a local theater group he had once been involved with. They weren't close friends, but they were professionals who could play a role when needed. He explained the situation, offering them a significant sum of money for their help. They agreed, intrigued by the challenge and the promise of payment. The plan started coming together. Justin set up hidden cameras throughout the house, ensuring he would capture every moment of the final act. He arranged for accidental encounters between Carlos and some of his friends, situations designed to make Carlos feel paranoid, to rattle his nerves. These encounters were subtle but effective. Carlos began to suspect something was off, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. The most crucial part of the plan was the grand finale. Justin decided to host a small charity event, inviting their all friends, his parents, neighbors, and of course, Gloria and Carlos. The actors would be there too, playing their roles to perfection. It was a risky move, but Justin knew it was the only way to ensure that everyone saw the truth. The party would start off normal, a few drinks, some casual conversation. But then, as the evening progressed, things would start to unravel. Thursday evening, Justin stood in his living room, staring at the house that had once been his sanctuary. The pictures on the wall, the furniture they had picked out together, it all felt like a cruel joke now. He walked over to the mantel, picking up a photo of him and Gloria on their wedding day. They looked so happy, so in love. Justin felt a pang of sadness, a deep, aching pain in his chest. But he couldn't afford to feel that now. He set the photo back down, his face hardening with resolve. His phone buzzed with a new message from Kevin. Asterisk, everything is set. We're good to go. Asterisk. Justin stared at the message, his heart pounding. It was almost time. Tomorrow, everything would come crashing down. He walked to the window, staring out into the night. The neighborhood was quiet, the only sound the distant hum of traffic. He wondered how Gloria and Carlos would react when they realized what he had done, how his mother would feel when she saw the truth laid bare. He turned away from the window and began to tidy up the living room, making sure everything was in its place. It was strange, the calm that had settled over him. The rage was still there, simmering beneath the surface, but it was controlled now, channeled into a clear, decisive plan. Justin picked up his phone and sent a message to Gary. Asterisk, tomorrow, 8 p.m. Be ready. Asterisk. He then messaged the actors, confirming their roles. Everyone was in place, and there was no turning back now. He sat down on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen. Tomorrow, everything would change. The life he had known, the people he had loved, they would all be gone. But in their place, there would be justice. They had taken everything from him, and now it was time to take something from them. Justin leaned back, closing his eyes. He needed to rest, to be sharp for what was to come. But even as he tried to relax, his mind kept racing, replaying the plan over and over. He couldn't afford any mistakes. Tomorrow had to be perfect. Tomorrow, he whispered to himself, the words barely audible in the silence of the room. Tomorrow, it all ends. Justin arrived at the charity event just as the guests were starting to trickle in. The venue, a lavish ballroom, was bustling with the elite of the city, their voices creating a low hum of excitement and conversation. Justin navigated through the crowd, exchanging pleasantries with acquaintances and maintaining a calm, collected demeanor. He had to play his part perfectly tonight. Every detail of his plan had to be executed without a hitch. He made his way to the event organizers, who were busy setting up the stage and finalizing last-minute details. Justin ensured that the hidden cameras he had arranged were positioned discreetly around the room, capturing every angle. The footage would be crucial for the grand finale. As he sipped on a glass of champagne, Justin's eyes scanned the room, looking for Gloria and Carlos. It wasn't long before they arrived, arm in arm, walking into the venue with an air of casual confidence. Gloria was dressed in an elegant black gown, while Carlos sported a sharp tuxedo. They moved through the crowd, exchanging greetings and mingling with guests. Justin felt a familiar surge of anger, but quickly suppressed it. This was not the time for emotional outbursts. He needed to remain composed. Justin watched as Gloria and Carlos approached his mother. She greeted them warmly, her smile genuine. Justin felt a pang of anger at the sight of his mother's affectionate demeanor, knowing what was about to unfold. He forced himself to stay calm, focusing on the task at hand. The evening proceeded smoothly, with Justin playing the role of the gracious guest. He avoided any direct contact with Gloria and Carlos, choosing instead to subtly influence the course of events. He had arranged for a series of text messages to be sent to Gloria and Carlos's phones at calculated intervals. The messages were crafted to stir anxiety and paranoia, references to secrets being exposed, questions about their recent behavior, and ominous warnings. Throughout the night, Justin kept an eye on Gloria and Carlos, noticing their increasing discomfort as they checked their phones repeatedly. Their smiles faltered, and they exchanged nervous glances. Justin's mother seemed oblivious, her attention focused on the event and the people around her. As the night progressed and the event began to wind down, Justin prepared for the final act. He made his way to the stage, where the event's host was wrapping up the evening's activities. Justin had arranged with the host to give a short speech, under the guise of offering thanks to everyone for their support. The host, a middle-aged man with a friendly demeanor, introduced Justin. "Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is someone many of you know well. Please welcome Justin Parker." Justin took the microphone and approached the center of the stage, taking a deep breath as he glanced around the room. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. This was it, his chance to make them all see the truth. "Good evening, everyone," Justin began, his voice steady but carrying an undertone of steel. "I'd like to take a moment to talk about trust. Trust is the foundation of any relationship, whether it's between a husband and wife, friends, or family." He paused, letting his words settle over the crowd. He could see Gloria and Carlos exchanging anxious glances, their faces growing increasingly pale. Justin's mother looked at him with a mixture of curiosity and confusion. "But what happens when that trust is broken?" Justin continued, his tone growing colder. "What happens when the people you love most betray you in the worst possible way?" With a deliberate motion, he gestured towards the screen behind him. The room fell silent as the video began to play. It showed footage from the hidden cameras in his house. Gloria and Carlos together, their intimate moments, their whispered conversations. The images were raw and unfiltered. The crowd's reaction was immediate, gasping, murmuring, some even turning away in shock. Justin watched Gloria's face go from shock to horror as she saw herself on the screen. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she tried to cover her face with her hands. Carlos looked around frantically, his composure crumbling. The video transitioned to screenshots of text messages and call logs from Gloria's phone, messages detailing their affair, their lies, and their deceit. The audience read the damning evidence, their faces reflecting a mixture of disbelief and condemnation. Just when the room seemed to be at its peak of chaos, Justin played the final piece, a recording of the conversation between Gloria and his mother. The audio was clear, every word of betrayal and complicity laid bare. Justin's mother's voice was unmistakable, discussing the affair in detail, her laughter mingling with Gloria's. The effect was immediate and explosive. The room erupted into chaos. Gloria burst into tears, her sobs audible over the din of voices. Carlos tried to leave, but the crowd blocked his path, their eyes filled with judgment. Justin's mother stood frozen, her face a mask of utter horror as she absorbed the full impact of the revelation. Justin remained on stage, watching the scene unfold with a cold satisfaction. He had done it. He had exposed the truth in the most public and humiliating way possible. The revenge he had meticulously planned was now complete. As the room continued to buzz with shock and outrage, Justin stepped down from the stage. He felt a sense of closure, a grim satisfaction that he had achieved what he set out to do. The night had been a turning point, and as he looked around at the wreckage of his relationships, he knew that things would never be the same. Next morning, Justin awoke to a house steeped in silence, a stark contrast to the turmoil of the previous night. The events of the charity event had left an indelible mark on his life, but now, as daylight streamed through the window, he found himself grappling with an unexpected emptiness. The house seemed to echo with memories of happier times, making the silence even more profound. He walked through the empty rooms, a vague sense of detachment coloring his movements. Gloria had left in the middle of the night, taking only a small bag of clothes. Justin's initial reaction was one of indifference. She had become a ghost in his life, her presence nothing more than a painful reminder of betrayal. Carlos was nowhere to be found either, likely hiding from the fallout of the public humiliation. As for his mother, Justin hadn't received any word from her since the event. He knew their relationship had been shattered beyond repair, and that realization gnawed at him. Justin made his way to the kitchen, where the remnants of a cup of coffee sat on the counter, cold and forgotten. He stared at it absently, his mind racing through the recent events. The sense of victory he had once felt now seemed hollow. He had achieved his revenge, but the cost had been steep. His marriage was over, his family fractured, and he was left alone with a heart heavy with regret. He paced the house, trying to shake off the feeling of stagnation. He glanced at the framed photographs on the walls, images of happier times, family vacations, and milestones now tainted by betrayal. Each picture was a reminder of a life that no longer existed, and Justin found himself unable to stand it any longer. By late afternoon, the weight of the house was unbearable. Justin packed a small bag, grabbed his fishing gear, and left without a second glance at the home that had once been his sanctuary. He didn't lock the door. It seemed irrelevant now. He drove aimlessly, the road stretching out before him like a lifeline, offering escape from the suffocating emptiness of his surroundings. As dusk settled, Justin found himself at the edge of a lake, a place he had always found solace in. The tranquility of the water, the gentle rustling of leaves, and the distant call of birds were soothing. Justin parked his car and walked down to the shore, his fishing rod in hand. He set up his gear with practiced ease, casting his line into the calm water. The repetitive motion was soothing, a ritual that provided a semblance of normalcy amidst the chaos. The lake, bathed in the soft light of the setting sun, offered a rare moment of peace. Justin sat on the bank, the fishing line disappearing into the water, and stared out into the darkness that was slowly enveloping the landscape. The night was still, with only the occasional splash of water to break the silence. He thought about his life, the choices he had made, and the path that had led him to this point. His thoughts drifted to Gloria, to the dreams they had shared, now shattered by deceit. He remembered their laughter, their plans for the future, visions that now seemed like cruel illusions. He thought about his mother, the betrayal she had helped facilitate, and the pain of knowing that the woman who had raised him had played a role in his heartbreak. As the stars began to appear in the night sky, Justin felt a strange sense of clarity. The revenge he had sought had come at a great personal cost, and he realized that he could not continue living in the shadows of the past. The anger and bitterness that had driven him needed to be let go. He got back into his car and started the engine. The hum of the motor was a welcome sound, breaking the morning stillness. As he drove away from the lake, Leaving behind the place that had been his refuge, Justin felt a renewed sense of resolve. He knew he had to forge a new path, one free from the shadows of betrayal and regret. Justin wasn't sure where the road would take him, but he was determined to find out. The next chapter of his life awaited, and he was ready to face it, one step at a time. He had endured the worst, and now it was time to rebuild, to seek a future that was defined by his own choices and not by the pain of the past. For a new beginning, Justin drove through the early morning mist, the road winding through a dense forest. The sun was just beginning to rise, filtering through the tall pines, and the crisp air filled him with a sense of possibility. He had been on the road for hours, leaving behind the remnants of his old life and the pain that had accompanied it. As he navigated a curve, a small town emerged from the mist, nestled in a valley surrounded by rolling hills. It was a place Justin had never seen before, a potential new beginning. He pulled into the town's main street and parked outside a quaint diner, its neon sign softly flickering in the early light. He stepped out of the car, stretched his legs, and inhaled deeply. The fresh mountain air was invigorating, and the quiet streets seemed to offer a peaceful respite. Justin entered the diner, the bell above the door jingling softly. Inside, the diner was warm and inviting. Red vinyl booths lined the walls, and the aroma of fresh coffee and grilled breakfast filled the space. A waitress with a friendly demeanor approached him. Her name tag read Linda. "Morning," she greeted, her smile genuine. "What can I get for you?" "Just coffee for now," Justin replied, sliding into a booth by the window. Linda returned shortly with a steaming cup of coffee. "Here you go. If you change your mind, just let me know." Justin nodded his thanks as she walked away. He took a sip of the coffee, the hot liquid a welcome comfort. As he looked out the window, watching the town slowly come to life, he felt a sense of calm he hadn't experienced in a long time. The past was behind him, and this new town represented a blank slate. After finishing his coffee, Justin decided to explore the town. He strolled along the main street, passing by small shops and a local bookstore. The town had a charm to it, with its mix of old-fashioned buildings and friendly faces. Justin struck up conversations with several locals, who welcomed him warmly and shared snippets of the town's history and character. At the end of the day, Justin knew he had found a place where he could start over. The simplicity and friendliness of the town were a stark contrast to the complexity and betrayal of his past life. The following weeks were a period of gradual adjustment and rebuilding for Justin. He found a small, rustic cabin on the outskirts of town, surrounded by trees and offering a sense of solitude. The cabin was modest but cozy, and Justin felt an immediate connection to it. He moved in and began to settle into his new routine. Justin secured a job at the local hardware store, where the work was straightforward and the atmosphere laid back. His co-workers were welcoming, and Justin found that the simplicity of the work helped him focus on moving forward. The store became a place of stability, a contrast to the tumultuous period he had left behind. In his free time, Justin took solace in fishing at a nearby lake. The quiet and the solitude of the lake provided him with the space to reflect and heal. He enjoyed the peacefulness of the water and the routine of casting his line, finding a meditative quality in the activity. As he sat quietly, Justin reflected on his journey. He had faced profound betrayal and heartache, but he had emerged from it with a new sense of purpose. The past had shaped him, but it no longer defined him. He was ready to embrace the future and build a new life on his own terms. Justin knew that this was not the end, but the beginning of a new chapter. With a renewed sense of hope, he was determined to write the next part of his story, free from the shadows of his past. The road ahead was open, and Justin was prepared to navigate it, step by step, toward a future filled with possibility.